Hey guys, I'm Jim. I edit photos. Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm in On1 Photo Raw 2021 and I'm having a kind of a good time, frankly, with a photo. And one of the things I do when I use On1 is I love the masking. I've talked about that in a lot of videos and I'll continue to talk about it because it's really powerful and useful. But I find that there's times when I don't really need a mask, and that kind of basically means I'm just kind of doing for lack of a better word, a basic edit, which is kind of how I started out when I started using On1. I just started using effects, and that's basically all their different filters, and I just started stacking them and playing with them and kind of learning it. And it was really a great learning experience to understand how the different filters or effects apply to your photo. That's kind of what I'm doing in this video. I actually end up not masking anything. Let me show you the photo. This was in Germany one night in a train station in Leipzig. Great little town, by the way, and I love Germany. It's just fantastic. But there's some things I want to fix about the photo, by the way. I already cropped it, and I also did a little bit of transform to kind of tilt it more this way because I was shooting kind of up with a wide angle. So I fixed those kind of things, but I haven't done any editing. However, I want to just jump through a few things. I started out thinking, all right, the color tones are off. I need to make this cooler because there's too much yellowy orange for me. I like the orange in the ceilings, but I don't like it so much kind of in the lower half. And I just kind of want to balance out the colors and light and all that. So I started out with AI Auto, and I hit that, and I was like, whoa, okay, that's kind of a lot. But it was actually a really good starting point. So I started there, but then I pulled back a few things. Like I pulled contrast back a little bit. I actually took highlights lower to like negative 3 or something. And I pulled midtones down to maybe about a 12. And then I pulled shadows down as well to about a 10. And that tamed that a little bit because that first click of AI Auto was like, oh my God, that's just really bright. And I don't want a really bright shot. What I want is kind of a moody, better color, better light, better in my opinion, as every edit is, right? When we edit our photos, we think we make them better. Anyway, so I did a few things here. I also added a little bit of structure, like a 15, not much. And then in temperature, I did go ahead and cool it off a bit because it just was too much. And I hit reset on saturation and vibrance. And so that's where I'm kind of starting from after a couple of moments here in the develop tab. If I turn that off, you can see the before and you can see how it's tilted back a little bit. And then here's the current state. So this is where I pop over to effects and kind of start having fun. The first one is HDR Look, and honestly, I just click and add it and I'm done. Like the default settings are fine. It adds a nice little bit of crunch, and this is just a train station, as you can see. And for me, like crunch and grunge, it just kind of goes with it. So I was okay with that. Another reason why I'm not doing any masking here. Just an interior space like this, I don't feel the need to mask things. And speaking of grunge, I actually went ahead and used the Grunge Filter, which is not something I'd really done a lot of in the past. But let's see, it defaults to 50, and I'm okay with that, but I need to brighten it a little bit, so I went to about a 5 on the brightening. Saturation came down like a negative 20. So let me do that because I don't want to overdo the colors. There's a lot there. And then the details going up to about 20. And so that is creating, as the name implies of the filter, quite a bit of a grungy look, but it's a little too much for me. And so this is where I like to use opacity. So I came in here to opacity and took that down to about 50. So I'm getting essentially half power, for lack of a better word, on what I did in grunge. So if I turn this off, you can see there it is before, a little bit brighter, that sort of thing. And then after, a little bit darker, tiny bit grungier. And that's one of the great things about having these tools with the opacity sliders is you might like it, but not really love it. And you want to pull it back a little bit. And instead of fiddling with the amounts and all those kind of things and trying to adjust, just use opacity. It's so easy. Next up, I wanted to make a couple of adjustments to some of the light. So this is where I went into tone enhancer. And I just went like a negative 14 or 15 here. And then shadows, I did the opposite. I lifted that about a 14 or a 15. So, a pretty subtle adjustment to the photo, but I felt like there it was a little bit too dark. And then now it's a little bit brighter, which I like. It's bringing back a little bit better visibility. And despite the fact that I want it dark, I don't want it to be overly moody. So I'm trying to control that here with the light. Okay, now to do a little bit of color fun, I'm going to go into color balance. And what I want to do is I'm going to go into shadows. I'm not going to mess with the highlights or the midtones at all. I'm just going to move this over here to like around a 240 or something about like that. And I'm going to increase the amount. So I basically am telling On1, hey, the shadows, I want to be that color blue or that shade of blue, which is 241. And then this is the amount slider, and I got to check my notes. I went to pretty high 60s, something about like, that. So it's definitely creating a bit moodier kind of blue look, but I like that subdued kind of feel to it, and it's helping me overcome kind of that bright yellow and kind of that sort of color that's in the photo. Plus, it is nighttime, as you can probably tell from seeing outside the windows where it's all blue, and at the very end where it's all blue. I just think accentuating that mood kind of I don't know, it just makes it better to me. So that's kind of what I did there, and then I went over to Sunshine Filter, and this is really all I did. I mean, I just grabbed a bunch of filters, and I just started messing around and having fun. And so this one I went about mid-70s, and then I gave it a little bit of warmth, like about a 10. And not a big hit here, but I like Sunshine because it gives it a nice little pop, and then you can control the warmth if you want to. But if you look at it before, it's a little flatter is the best word I can think of for it. And then when I add this Sunshine, it really pops. It seems to add a little bit of contrast. A nice little just overall, pop is the best word for it. And I think we're getting there. Okay, so now I'm going to get a vignette, and I thought I was wrapping it up. I actually ended up doing something else after using the vignette, but I'm going to go ahead and put the vignette on, which is like a -35 in brightness, and size is about a 35 as well. So it's not a really tight vignette, but I'm trying to focus you. I mean, you've got kind of got the leading line straight down the center, but then also with the train, you just kind of go like that, I feel like. So there's not a lot of distraction on the outer sides, but the vignette does kind of help tighten that up a little bit. So there it is without the vignette, which I actually like quite a bit as well. And then with the vignette, again, just creating a little bit of mood, which I really liked in this photo. And the last thing I did is I go over to local adjustments. And as the name implies, they're local. They're designed to be masked into specific parts of the photo. But I'm just going to invert the mask, and I'm going to hit reset. So that goes back to 0. And basically, I've created a white mask, which means the edits that I apply are going to apply globally. They're going to apply all over the photo because, remember, white reveals and black conceals. So because the mask is white, everything that I do here is going to be revealed across the entire photo. So the first thing I do is actually bump the exposure a little bit. And again, nighttime shot inside a train station. You expect it to be kind of dark, but as you can see, lots of lights in the ceiling and all that, and I felt like it was getting a little too dark. So that's why I came over here and did that. I lifted shadows just a tiny bit, like an 8 or 9, and just a little bit of tint, like maybe a 5, and a little bit of vibrance, like maybe an 8. I don't want to overdo the color or kind of oversell it. And when I took this photo like in 2012, I think, and when I initially edited it, it was an HDR, surprise. That's all I did back then. And it was big, just colorful and crazy and all that. And it's funny to go look at my style and how it's changed, but I don't really go for that. Some of you may think that I do, just because my colors can be kind of bold. But compared to how I used to do it, I don't do that at all. But anyway, this local adjustment applied globally, of course, allowed me to get a little bit brighter look to it. So there it is before that, a local adjustment. And there it is after. And that, my friends, is the whole edit. So if I turn off everything I've done, you can kind of see a little bit more muted, a little bit more yellow. The light distribution isn't great. Flatter photo. And of course, I fixed some of the verticals with the transform tool. But when I turn this back on, you can see I think the photo really pops. I think the details have been brought up nicely. I think I balanced the light nicely. And I think I just really accentuated what I wanted to accentuate in this photo. And I didn't even use any masking, believe it or not. Well, you could say that I did on local adjustment, but not really because it's global, so I didn't even mask it in. But, a simple adjustment there, some very simple stuff in effects, and then some very simple stuff in develop. And I was able to take a photo that was kind of, flat, kind of boring, that sort of thing, and create something that's a bit more lively and interesting, at least to my eyes. Regardless, my point was really that despite all the powerful masking in On1, you don't always have to use it. Now, I use it all the time, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with using it, of course, because there's not. It's fantastic. But there may be images like this one where I just want to apply my effects, get in there, and get it done. And that's one of the nice things about On1 is I chat about how great the masking is, and it is, but the filter effects are good too. You can get some really nice looking results even without the masking. So hope this gives you some ideas about things you can do with your own photos, my friends. Thanks for watching, of course. I always appreciate that. Good to see you guys. Thanks for coming by. Thumbs up, like, subscribe if you haven't done those kind of things. I appreciate it, and I'll see you soon. You guys take care of yourselves, and adios.